Hello, I'm Andrew Pearce, and this is The Daily Show from the Daily Mail newsroom. Coming up, if you're tucking into a healthy food, you may be horrified to discover it might actually make you fat. We'll tell you more. Another royal divorce. This time it's David Linley, the son of Princess Margaret, the only nephew of the Queen. He's divorcing his wife Serena after 27 years of marriage. We're talking to the head teacher who's come up with a list of 50 things a girl should do before she's 5, including hatching a chicken. That's right, a chicken. Flooding. The Greens are blaming the government for not investing sufficiently in climate change measures. But first, a key advisor at number 10, a great friend of Dominic Cummings, has quit. Jumped before he was pushed. So the maverick number 10 advisor, Dominic Cummings, voiced defiance today, despite a great backlash from Tory MPs and ministers over his decision to appoint Andrew Sabisky. He was ousted over social media posts from 3 years ago. Mr. Cummings insisted people should not listen to political pundits who don't know what they're talking about, as he was challenged on whether he regretted the appointment. Mr. Sabisky, 29, a self-styled super forecaster, quit last night amid fury at past comments in which he talked about forced contraception of the underclass, and he suggested black people had lower IQs. Joining me now is a former MP, Stewart Jackson, who was, of course, Chief of Staff to Brexit Secretary David Davis and was also a government advisor. Stewart, was this guy Sabisky doomed the moment we delved into his past?
Probably yes, Andrew, because these days what they call offence archaeology is all the rage, where they go back at people's social media performance over the years and they dig out anything that's contentious or controversial. So in that respect, given that he's only a young man anyway, as a youth, he probably did commit stuff to social media which was inappropriate. But I'm afraid this is very much the vogue at the moment, to chase people out on the basis of something that they probably regret anyway.
Is this also more about, do you think, Stuart, the influence of Dominic Cummings? He's never been a member of the Tory party. He's a great friend of Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, who and worked with them on the Vote Leave campaign. Michael Gove, of course, the Cabinet Office Minister. People are saying this was a way of ministers and MPs who resent the influence of Dominic Cummings. By getting Sabisky, they've got Cummings.
There's an element of truth in that, certainly, and there is a vicious turf war, and there always was and always will be between different departments, particularly, I think, between now, to an extent, the Treasury and Number 10. Number 10 does want to consolidate its power to basically direct policy for the foreseeable future. But, you know, Cummings is challenging. He's challenging the establishment, he's challenging the mandarins, he's challenging the established liberal media, and therefore people, not just Tory MPs, but MPs generally and his enemies, of which there were quite a few, will use any weapons at their disposal. So in a sense, whilst I think that Cummings is doing a good job in asking difficult questions about the British state and government, he did leave himself open to issues with this young man, this futurist, Andrew Sabisky, who obviously had skeletons in his cupboard on social media. So you're quite right. It is symptomatic of a wider conflict within the British government and the Conservative Party.
OK, that was Stewart Jackson, former Chief of Staff to Brexit Secretary David Davis. Now, remember to tell your Alexa speaker to play Daily Mail News, and you'll get the latest newsroom live from Mail Plus. And at 5, you hear the latest Daily Show. So Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has been accused of going into hiding as parts of the country struggle under unprecedented flooding. The Prime Minister has been criticised for not even calling a meeting of the government's Emergency Cobra Committee at the height of the floods. Great parts of the country are still underwater. Amelia Womack is Deputy Leader of the Green Party. Amelia, first of all, has the government's response been pretty pathetic?
I mean, it's been pathetic this year, it's been pathetic back in November, and it's been pathetic in the years running up to this. I think, it's clear that the government hasn't prioritised flood defences. When we look at what David Cameron said in 2015 as he pulled on his new pair of ready boots to go and look at floodwaters back then, he said that money was no object when it came to flood defences. Yet we saw a cut of 14% to flood defences, as well as cuts of 40% to the local councils, which have meant that we haven't been able to build those, to work with the defences that these communities so vitally need.
We've seen now the River Wye has risen to its highest level in 200 years since records began. Amelia, is this now completely clear-cut evidence for you of evidence of climate change?
I mean, we've seen the evidence in so many places, whether that's been fires in the Arctic or the fires in Australia, and floods. Predictions of further floods are evidence of climate change. But it's not just the damage of climate change itself, it's also the ecological damage that we've created. Scientists and hydrologists have told us that management of the uplands is a vital way of slowing the flow of water off our hillsides. Yet we've seen a lot of destruction that has continued of destroying habitats and cutting down trees that has meant that a lot of that water is still moving a lot faster than it should and plummeting towards rivers. So it's an aspect of both of these points of carbon emissions going into our atmosphere, as well as tearing up the very habitats that could protect us.
The government, has announced measures on things like petrol cars and hybrid cars. They're going to phase them out by 2032 or 5 years earlier. But what do they need to do right now, in your view, Amelia, to try to contend with climate change?
So we need a genuine Green New Deal, which is about making sure that we're creating opportunities in the green industries, but not just about replacing one type of car with another type of car, about genuinely investing in public transport of buses and coaches, walking and cycling and trains, of making sure that we've got warm homes that are properly insulated, as well as renewable energy. I think one of the things that I keep saying is that I talk to people, and what all people want is the greenest option to be the cheapest and easiest option. And that's what this government needs to do for people, whether that's through subsidy or whether that's through investment into certain areas to stimulate an economy. The blueprints have been there for decades, and now it's time for action.
All right, if I could ask you just finally, I'm sure you've been aware of it, it's in the news. Extinction Rebellion have dug up a lawn at Trinity College, Cambridge, caused great consternation. Do you support what they've done?
I support the demands of Extinction Rebellion. We need action. I don't always support their methods. And when I speak to many people in Extinction Rebellion, there are people who are genuinely at their last point of not knowing what they can do to tackle this climate emergency. And they're highlighting issues such as investment in fossil fuels in ways that have grabbed people's attention. I'm sure that many people are more aware than ever of the investment of Trinity College in the fossil fuel industry as a result of that action.
So do you support what they did?
I don't support that action specifically. I do support their actions in general to make sure that we are keeping climate on the agenda.
Amelia Womack, Deputy Leader of the Green Party, thanks for joining me. Now, if you enjoy The Daily Show, we hope you do, please subscribe to us, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google or Spotify, and do get in touch by emailing me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk, or you'll follow us at mailplus. A girls' school in West Sussex has drawn up a list of 50 things girls should do by the age of 5. The plan of the head teacher, Liz Laban, at Burgess Hill Girls' School is to get girls off of iPads and up trees. The list includes holding a worm, telling a joke, climbing a tree. Liz Laban, it sounds terrific, but it probably wouldn't work for schoolgirls in Peckham and inner London, would it?
Well, I think there's a variety of different challenges that are on that list. So even though, in different areas, it may be more difficult to do some of them, I think of the 50, they are achievable because parents could actually drive them to a local park or do something, actually seek out somewhere to do these challenges.
Why do you think girls should dance in the rain? Aren't they going to get very wet and catch a cold?
I think that's part of it. I think our whole view is that education should be live and alive. And for us, we want to make sure that every girl can experience all different types of circumstances, climates, and enjoy themselves. And it's okay to do that.
Raise your own butterfly. How do you do that?
Well, actually, that is quite easy. You
Really?
you can get a butterfly box, and you can actually breed the chrysalis, and then actually the girls then let them go when they're fully formed.
Now, the thing that really drew my attention was hatching a chick. Now, that
Yes.
surely is too big an ask for a 4 or 5-year-old.
Well, we've certainly done that at Burgess Hill Girls. Every single year we hatch chicks in our nursery. So I think if you really want to achieve it, it is definitely possible.
What part do the girls play in that process, though?
They, from the very beginning, they will be involved on a daily basis of checking the chicks, checking the temperature, and obviously right the way through to when they hatch, and then they feed them, and then they invite people in to visit them.
What's the favourite thing they've done on that list, in your view?
Oh, my goodness. I personally think holding a worm was the most exciting.
Yuck.
It was the most exciting element of doing those challenges for all of the girls, because it had to be, according to them, had to be a good meaty worm.
Oh, where did they dig the worms up from?
Out of the grounds of the school.
Right. And did any of the worms die in the process because of fear or being manhandled or girl-handled, I should say?
No, they didn't. They were carefully put back afterwards.
All right. Now, tell me, what's been the reaction, Liz Laban, of the parents? Are they all in favour?
Well, it's been really exciting. The parents have been extremely positive about it. All our nursery pupils currently, their parents have the sheet at home, and we are about to put it out for our forthcoming open day, where anybody visiting can take part. And then anybody that completes the list, we will, as a school, donate £5 to children in need for that family.
Very good. Now, I want to know personally, tell the truth, have you rolled down a hill?
Do you know what? I have rolled down a hill, and I can honestly tell you today I've also gone splat in the mud when I've been walking my dog. So I feel like I'm doing my own challenges.
Thanks very much, Liz Laban, who is, of course, the head teacher of Burgess Hill Girls' School. Now, coming up, it's a second royal divorce in as many months, and which health foods are making you fat? All that and more after we find out what's on TV tonight with Claudia Connell.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, the award season comes to an end tonight, and they've saved the best till last with the Brits on ITV at 8 o'clock. OK, there was a little bit of sarcasm there. Try as hard as they might, the Brits is only ever going to be a Poundland Grammys. They're celebrating 40 years, though, so, maybe we'll see something spectacular. Jack Whitehall is hosting, Harry Styles is performing, Billie Eilish is performing, so you never know, it could be a good show. How to Stay Out of Jail is something Channel 4 are looking at in a documentary that's on tonight. I mean, the obvious answer is don't commit any crime. But despite the attention-grabbing title, this is quite a thought-provoking programme. It's about a controversial scheme being rolled out in County Durham. Prisons are full to bursting, and in Bishop Auckland, they've launched an initiative called Checkpoint, where criminals can avoid prosecution by vowing to completely change their lives and never reoffend. And in return, they have to work with people who help them to achieve that. I mean, like I say, it's a very controversial scheme, and these aren't petty crimes we're talking about either, but prisons are full, and it doesn't stop prisoners from reoffending, so you could argue that it has to be worth a shot. Staying with the theme of crime and punishment, there's a new documentary starting on BBC4, Ruth Ellis, a very British crime story.
In a 3-part series, BBC4 reinvestigates the hanging of one of Britain's most famous female murderers.
The whole trial had been handled differently. She could have lived.
In 1955, Ruth Ellis was the last woman to be hanged in Britain. She shot her lover, and she was painted as this evil femme fatale. This 3-parter, it opens up the files and it looks at the police investigation, and it questions whether Ruth Ellis deserved to hang because she was almost certainly the victim of domestic violence.
Well, thanks very much, Claudia. If you want to get in touch, remind you email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus. Now, sports editor Mark Paget is back with the latest sports news. The Jimmy Greaves campaign is coming home. It's going to White Hart Lane, isn't it?
That's right, Andrew, yeah. I think this campaign's gone down really well so far. And tomorrow we're going to White Hart Lane. We're going to hand out 5,000 of these leaflets, Give Greavesy a Gong.
Right.
We've already got more than 20,000 people have signed up to our petition. We'll be handing them out at White Hart Lane. We've already got the big names like Duncan Smith, hopefully Priti Patel, maybe even the Prime Minister, who all want to get behind this campaign.
I'm sure they do.
Gary Lineker, big fan of the Mail. Bale, he's tweeted today with his in support of the campaign as well.
Well, that's the first.
But, yeah. So we'll be there. Huge game for Tottenham as well.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Leipzig tomorrow night, and they've Jose Mourinho in classic Mourinho style today, moaning about Son Heung-min has broken his arm and he can't play, and Harry Kane can't play, and the world's against me. Typical Mourinho.
Typical.
Yeah.
Well, does Jimmy Greaves still go and watch football matches?
No, I mean, this stroke he's had a couple of years ago has left him sort of paralysed halfway down the left-hand side of his body. I mean, tomorrow night's match is tribute to Jimmy Greaves, so Spurs will show all his goals on the big screens at half-time. The game's dedicated to him, but sadly he won't be able to be there.
What a shame. His son might be there, maybe?
Yeah, I think Danny Greaves, his son, will be there, so there'll be some sort of family
And we had
presence.
our very own Richard Littlejohn today wading into the campaign in support.
Absolutely. Brilliant to have someone like Richard joining in as well, a big Spurs fan. We've had Martin Samuel, I've just been struck by readers, men of the people, women of the people, men and women in the street who just said what a great bloke he is. It's hard to find a bad word against him.
I think a lot of people probably hadn't realised either, Mark, that he hadn't got anything. Now, what makes Deontay Wilder the most frightening boxer on the planet? I have to say, who is he?
So this weekend, it's Deontay Wilder, who's the great American hope, against Tyson Fury, who's a great British hope.
Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah.
He's very odd, Tyson Fury, isn't he?
Very odd or old.
Odd.
It's certainly odd, yeah, very much so. And the first fight, memorably, but not for you, 14 months ago was a draw.
Right.
And so this one is settle it, let's have a decider. So Tyson's our hope, Deontay's their great big hope, and he's just an incredibly concussive puncher. But our stuff today is all about his speed, his stamina, the things that surprise you outside the ring. The bloke's a certified scuba diver.
Is he really?
So he concentrates very much on his breathing technique, things like that, and then incredibly interesting sparring techniques where he uses one eye closed. He has an arm dangling by the side of his body to replicate either an arm injury during the night or a very bad eye blow during the night. So very interesting.
Very interesting.
Sparring.
Who's going to win that fight?
Deontay Wilder.
Oh, is he?
I think so, but relatively easily.
Do you like Tyson Fury?
Not massively.
No. A little bit. What I've read about him, I don't like him either. Now, poor old Ben Youngs is facing £100,000 salary cut. Now, I haven't a clue which sport it is. Let's have a guess. Football?
No.
Right.
Rugby union. Not just the money
is he
knocking around
Saracens?
it. No, but the Saracens' salary cap is part of the scenario here. So Ben Young's England scrum half and plays for Leicester too. Yeah. So we've had all the Saracens salary cap, which has been a huge story in the Mail over the last year or so. Ben Youngs will have to go down from 250 grand a year to 150 grand a year. So it's a big old cut for someone who plays for England at rugby. And it's so that Leicester can meet their salary cap commitments as well. But I would suggest also to read tomorrow's Daily Mail, because we've got some very good, interesting story about the Saracen stars and their exodus, where they're all going to end up playing next season.
But they'll be facing a salary cap too, presumably, wherever they go.
Yeah, but but Saracens get them all off their books, but they will go to their rivals in the Premiership as Saracens drop down a league to the Championship.
Is it going to be the end of the Saracens?
No, because I think they'll win the Championship by a mile next year and then bounce back the year after.
All right, that's Mark Paget, sports editor. Another week, another divorce. This time, David Linley and his wife Serena have split following Peter and Autumn Phillips. He, of course, is the Earl of Snowdon, the son of Princess Margaret and the Queen's only nephew. They married in 1993, and in a statement with his wife Serena, they said they'd come to an amicable agreement. Joining me now is the royal commentator Angela Levin, author of the book about Prince Harry, Conversations with the Prince. Angela, I can't imagine that the Queen can't be anything other than distressed at another divorce in her family when you consider how long her marriage has gone on so successfully to Prince Philip.
Yes, she's also understood there are bumps in marriage, and she's stood there and let them, bump her, and she's come back strong. She's known about this for many months. I heard that they were separating last summer, and so I expect that the influence is sort of minored now. She's got used to it a bit. But she will be very upset because David Linley is very loyal to her. He goes up to Gloucestershire during the summer, and he goes to Sandringham on Christmas Day to be with the family. And he's often with her to go to church on a Sunday morning. So she's very, very fond of him. So she will be very sad. And he's always gone on his own. He's gone on his own for quite a long time now.
He's also a model example, isn't he, Andrew, of a royal who makes his own income without any controversy at all. His furniture business is an outstanding success.
It isn't an outstanding success. No. In 2012, he was £3 million in debt, and he lost control of the company. He only owes 40%, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's a very, very good carpenter, and he's also a designer. And he's very talented. He's kept quiet. I mean, he's one of the royals who's managed on their own, and he hasn't asked for loans, and he's just got on with it. It's one reason why Prince Charles has made him his second in command of the Prince's Foundation. I met him in the summer. In November, when he was up in Dumfries House in Scotland. And he was quite subdued, but he was absolutely thrilled that Prince Charles had done this for him. And this is the merger of many of his charities, Prince Charles's charities, to create more of a harmonious community.
We don't know, of course, why the marriage is broken up, but the papers were reporting today, Angela, they'd merely drifted apart. They got married in 1993. I can remember it. It was an incredibly glamorous wedding. Diana was there, Elton John, Jerry Hall, and thousands of people lined the streets in Westminster to see them.
Yes, it was very glamorous, and she comes from a very wealthy family, and so there was no expense spared on both sides. I think they have grown apart. He's been travelling around the world talking. He works for Christie's as well, and he's giving speeches all over the place. He's also up in Scotland a lot with Prince Charles, and I think she got pretty fed up. She tried to do her own business with lavender products, scent and soap, and in Provence, and they were separated for a long time then. But she... that didn't work either, and that was closed some time ago too.
Are there any rumours about any more divorces finally, Angela?
No, I hope not. No, I haven't heard of any. I heard of the two latest ones, but not of any other ones. And I hope not for the Queen, because she is so stoic and will keep going regardless, and very, very much cares about her family, even though she doesn't show it emotionally, because she believes keeping all that inside her. But I think, she's 93 now. She should have a calm, pleasant, family-driven time, shouldn't she? She deserves it.
I agree with you. That's Angela Levin. Thanks for joining us. Now, what you and I might call a load of old rubbish is proving to be rich pickings for a growing breed of designers who use waste products to make catwalk-worthy clothes. Some celebrities are paying thousands for the items in which they can make the most politically correct statement without even opening their mouths. This is known as Trashin. It's the hottest new trend in the fashion world, with high-quality, sought-after garments being crafted from items which were previously destined for landfill. Joining me now to explain it all is Sarah Rainey, writer for the Daily Mail. Trashin, Sarah, who coined that phrase? Was that one of yours?
Oh, I wish. Isn't it a great phrase?
It is.
Trashin,
yeah.
fab. Unfortunately, not mine. It's been around for a while, actually.
Yeah.
People love to talk about trashing. I think it's really eye-catching, isn't it? Something that you never thought you'd be able to make clothes out of. And actually, trash, it turns out, makes for amazing fashion.
Yeah, and I see the Duchess of Sussex, who else, of course? She's a great fashion icon. She's been wearing a pair of £135 flat black pumps made from repurposed water bottles. It might be rubbish, but it's expensive rubbish, Sarah.
It is expensive. I think that's the one difficulty about it, is people love the idea of it, and yet when it comes to making clothes out of what we would often term rubbish, it's actually quite a pricey process. So the reason these shoes are quite so expensive, they're made from recycled plastic bottles, but it's obviously not just a question of getting the bottles and, sort of mushing them up and making it shoes. It's quite a long, convoluted and expensive process involved, which is why they've got such high price tags.
Yeah, Anya Hinmarch, she's the bag designer. She's selling bags with the slogan "I'm a plastic bag" for £700. Who's going to buy them?
I know. I mean, it does seem quite steep when you put it like that, doesn't it? But bear in mind, it was Anya Hinmarch who started this whole trend in the first place. She started talking about, I am not a plastic bag back in 2007. with what was actually a canvas tote in those days. So this is a kind of comedy take on that, bringing out this new bag actually made of plastic bottle, saying, I am a plastic bag. And essentially, a lot of it is to raise awareness of this huge problem we have with plastic waste, particularly in the oceans and in landfill, that these fashion designers are actually doing something about it. But yeah, the price tag means it's not going to appeal to everybody.
No, indeed. Certainly not to me. That's Sarah Rainey, writer for the Daily Mail. And finally, in Good Health today, we've covered ultra-processed health foods, which actually could be making us fatter. Does that explain my midriff? Evidence suggests that diets heavy in ultra-processed foods can cause overeating and obesity. Now, consumed in isolation and moderation, they may be, of course, perfectly wholesome. Lucy Elkins, health writer, is with me now. So the offenders are things like multi-grain sliced and packaged bread. Oh, my God, I buy it every week.
Oh, you're doomed.
I am. That explains my stomach, does it?
Well, all of it, yes, that perfectly explains it. Well, no, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
So ultra-processed food is essentially food that has something added to it that you might not recognise. So if it might be an emulsifier or lactose, something you're not going to find in the kitchen cabinet.
Right.
So if you see on your food that it's got a number of these things added, you can call it ultra-processed. And that can be anything from bread, yes, to certain healthy-sounding milks like long-life almond milks, to flavoured yoghurts, you name it.
You're ruining my diet. I've got that flipping long-life blimmin' milk in my almond, unsweetened.
Oh, heck. Well, we're going to have to wean you off all this, aren't we? Thank God you like avocados.
Yeah, I do like avocados. Now, are these products added to extend the lives of the loaf of bread and to extend the life of the almond milk?
It's all to make it a bit more palatable. And also, in some cases, the formulation of food has been changed in order to make it sound a little bit healthier. It might be low fat.
Yes.
But if they make it low fat, they're probably adding a bit more sugar. Yeah. And the problem with ultra-processed food is it tends to be low in fibre and it tends to be easier to eat. So therefore, you're not filling up because you haven't got the fibre which bulks you out and makes you feel satiated.
So you eat even more.
And also, because it's easier to eat, your hunger hormones that should kick in when you've eaten your meal and tell you, actually, I'm full, don't. So you carry on going and you eat more and more and more. And that is the problem.
It explains a lot. Now, what about diet fizzy drinks? There's rows of them in the supermarket. I mean, I never buy fizzy drinks full stop unless it's tonic for my gin or vodka, obviously. And I always buy a Slimline. You're going to tell me whether that's multi, whatever it is or not. But these diet fizzy drinks, they're not good either, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, there have been question marks over fizzy drinks especially diet fizzy drinks, for a number of times because people tend to reward themselves. They think, oh, I've been really good. I've had a fizzy drink, so they have something else. But yes, if you check the ingredients of a diet fizzy drink, naming no names, there is unlikely to be much that you recognise that would be in your kitchen cupboard or in your fridge for that matter.
And someone told me, you may not know about this, that those cans of gin and tonic have got 9 spoonfuls of sugar in them.
No, I didn't know that.
That's not only is that bad for my waist, it's bad for my teeth.
That is bad for your teeth. Well, you're going to have to stick to white wine or something.
Well, there's 2 cans and they've been in the fridge for ages and I keep thinking, I can't drink them.
Oh, that's sad.
I'll bring them in for you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Lucy Elkins, health writer on the Daily Mail. That's all we've got time for today. For the latest from the Daily Mail newsroom, come back every day for briefings at 7 a.m, 12 noon, and of course 5 p.m. where you can listen to me all over again. That's it from me, Andrew Pearce from The Daily Show. I'll be back tomorrow. Have yourselves a great evening and good night.